I am Kylen Ribeiro, CEO of DefenderShield, and I'm here today with Jonathan Farrar, a building biologist. We're going to have a bit of a chat and learn about what you do. Firstly, can you just introduce yourself and tell us what a building biologist does?
Absolutely. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for having me. A building biologist kind of goes by different terms. One of my mentors, Kathy Cook, calls it a house doctor, which is kind of a great way to describe it. Essentially what we're doing is we're looking at the building as an ecosystem. We're coming in and addressing any issues, whether it's EMF, mold, indoor air quality, or water, or any of those combined, as well as the outdoor kind of environment with the building. And I guess the simplest way to piece it together would be to say that our gold standard is nature, right? Nature is the gold standard always. So it's essentially creating that balance between the external and the internal, and really getting back to living in accordance with our natural environments.
What inspired you to get into this line of work?
Through being sick myself, growing up, I grew up in California in a really moldy house that I figured out was moldy many years later. Typical 1920s plaster home with a lot of leaks. Beautiful home, but as we know, beauty doesn't always mean that the home is healthy, right? And that's kind of a big misunderstanding that we have these days. It's like, well, the home is brand new, so it's healthy. So we grew up in that house. I always had a lot of symptoms, a lot of allergies. And then my parents actually installed solar panels on the home. And my room at the time was at the very top. So we had like a flat roof kind of surrounding it. All of those inverters were all around where I was sleeping. And as soon as those turned on, my health completely tanked. That was probably about 10 or 12 years ago. Everything just ramped up. So I guess through intuition, or I like to say through faith, I started kind of piecing things together and figuring out it was the solar panels that really ruined my health. And I had severe EHS, electromagnetic hypersensitivity. And once I got out of that environment, I started getting better. But then I moved to a moldy home in Tennessee, and I had my children at that time. And then that kind of led me down the whole building biology path, because I just was so frustrated with never getting answers from people. Kind of, I guess, through wherewithal and just frustration, to put it shortly, I came to building biology, and I'm so grateful for what Helmet has created in this community.
Yeah, once we know what potential risks are out there, we can make safer choices for our families and our kids once we are aware of some of these risks. So when you walk into a typical home, what do you usually find? Like, what are the most commonly found things that would be affecting people's health?
And I guess I'll kind of preface that with saying, like, there's a lot of fear out there, which is, we really try to not lead from fear, just like you guys, right? Mm-hmm. I really love that. You lead with people being able to take charge and protect themselves. It's the shield. A lot of times it's what we bring into the home that causes the bigger issues, right? So we have all these terms like 5G, fifth generation, right? We have smart meters. We have all these things that are like very like fear, like these things are gonna kill you. And at the end of the day, usually what we're finding in the home is that the worst, highest emitting, highest power densities that we're finding are from the things we bring in: the cell phone, the Wi-Fi router, the connected devices.
Is it something that people are aware of when they bring in a building biologist, or are they really more concerned with the mold? I just would like to know kind of people's general level of awareness with EMFs currently.
Like, typically we're getting called in because someone doesn't feel good, right? And a lot of times mold, not to discount it or say it's not harmful, but it's the easy target, right? It's like everything is mold these days. We can smell it, we know what it smells like, we know what it looks like, like all these different aspects. It's tangible. EMF, as the great Arthur Furstenberg says, is the invisible rainbow, so it's like, it's literally all around us now in immense amounts, and we don't think of that as our primary concern usually, right? Mm-hmm. Until we start learning about it and start really educating ourselves. And that's really what we want to do for clients, is educate them. I tell people, like, our kind of goal is to not just be siloed in one toxin, right? Because it's an amalgam of things that are adding to the health effects in the home, right? And they all have a symbiotic part to play with one another. And I really truly believe that EMF specifically is aggravating so much in our homes, including the mold, mycotoxins, all those different things that we're not looking at, right? So it's like, you're kind of not really doing full service if we can't at least measure that, right? So even when we get called in for mold, I still keep an eye out for EMF, and I might even still do like a bed scan or just keep my mind open to like, hey, there's a panel right there, right next to this bed. Hey, this bed is right next to the smart meter on the wall. Hey, it's right next to a fridge, something like that, right? So we can start to put the puzzle pieces together and see. A few people have come into the home and they have meters already, like they're already super adamant about getting those levels down, and they're doing a lot of the right things. And then other times you have clients that aren't even aware of what EMF is, right? And that's totally okay, and that's a great opportunity for us to educate them, to bring in things like DefenderShield products and all these different aspects to help them live in a healthier home, and really get them to understand how this can affect their health, in addition to all the other things in the home that we need to take a look at. So
the point you made about mold thriving in an environment with high EMFs is something that we have found in studies and scientific work. So that is a point that I think I don't want to be overlooked, because if you want to reduce the mold in your home, you don't want to have it being around these EMFs that are causing it to grow.
Yep.
What are some top tips you have for people to assess the EMFs in their home?
I would say the best thing you could do is get a meter that measures magnetic, RF, and electric fields. Start with the sleeping area. That's typically what building biology standards are all based around, safety with the sleeping area. I kind of take those and I apply them to all the living areas, because I think it's important, even outdoors where kids are spending time and families are spending time, like it's important not to be bombarded by these things where you're having dinners and trying to enjoy your life and then you're just sitting in a magnetic field. We even do virtual consulting with clients. They want help with the sleeping area, typically in like apartments. That can be really tricky with shared walls. And that's where we're saying, hey, get this meter, and then I can get on a call with you and we can measure your sleeping area, and I can help you with shielding it with some stuff from DefenderShield or different aspects of turning things off. But also a lot of it is intuitive, like a lot of it is like, how do you feel in your sleeping area? How do you feel in this area? How do you feel in that area? What's around it? Is it on the opposite side of a fridge? Is it next to a smart meter? Like, you kind of just start to put puzzle pieces together, and that's like really what we do. Gather all the data and the information and link it together to make changes in the home and help people live better in their homes. That can be easy or it can be tricky, but one thing I like about EMF, not that I like EMF, but it's like, compared to mold, it's something where I can usually at the end of the day give a client like 3 or 4 action items that are already either I've already implemented and shielded for them and they're going to live better like that day, or it's like, hey, let me order these things for you and then I'll come back and install them and you're going to be golden. It's not like mold where it's like a drawn out process. It can be really painstaking, like super highly, a big financial investment. And that's one of the benefits to EMF, I guess I'd say, is it's a little bit easier.
It can be blocked.
Yeah, it can be blocked. Exactly. It can be shielded. Exactly. And it's like, but there are times where it's like, EMF can also be the crux of like, it's the only times that I've had to tell a client, like, my only recommendation at this point is to move. Because if there's an external source, like power lines that are working their way into the home through concentric circles of magnetism, then there's really almost no way we can block it. I mean, you can try, it's very expensive, but it's really difficult. So that's a non-negotiable kind of health adverse thing when you have an external magnetic field coming in.
How about when it comes to the type of home? So apartments versus townhomes versus single family homes.
I mean, with apartments, you're not just dealing with what you can control, right? You're kind of trying to deal with the other rooms above, below, to the left and right of you. Like, you're dealing with other people's, let's say, like cross-contamination, especially from electrosmog, right? And a lot of times that's where it comes down to like maybe a bed canopy, stuff like that, right? Or just like shielding material, like the wallpaper would be great in that instance if you could wallpaper that space. But it gets tricky, and that's where like you have to measure, and it's always test, don't guess with building biology, right? So that, like shared walls, very tricky. You're gonna deal with a lot of people, not just from the mold aspect or the endotoxin aspect potentially, but a huge EMF concern there too. Sometimes we're seeing like with a townhome that has every single smart meter from the whole development on one home or close to one home. So I've seen that a few times where it's like, I was at a house for mold and I saw one next door to that house, and the homeowners came out and I actually asked them, I was like, hey, are you aware that like of what the effect of that could be on your home? And he actually said, yeah, I'm actually getting treated for EMF right now. And I was like, well, I could probably help you with that treatment if we shield that. So we went in and measured it, and he ended up becoming a client because he was like, well, if we shield it, then like the treatments will do a lot better. I'm like, yeah, you have. I think he had like maybe 6 or 8 smart meter bank on his wall on his house.
Wow.
So that with townhomes is very common. And then with Like single family homes, it really depends on like where their wiring is, like how close to the home it is, the power lines outside. But back to townhomes, some townhomes we see like really close power lines, right? Because they're dealing with such a small area that they're building in, where I've seen some that have like an 8 to 14 milligauss field at all times in the home. Me as a person with EHS, like I step in there and I automatically feel terrible, you know? And some of those people, like they're not even really aware of that EMF aspect. They're like, it's mold, it's gotta be mold. And I'm like, you have massive power lines right next to your place and they're creating a massive concentric circle of magnetic frequency.
What do you look for in shielding solutions?
I would say a lot of data, the testing behind it, being able to acquire it easily, being able to implement it easily. It's not super bulky, it's easy, but also like people will then kind of go down the pathway of thinking like, well, if I'm in my home and I'm shielded, like what about the outdoors? What about outside? What about when I'm flying? Things like that. So that's why I love shielding clothing, because you can actually take it with you. In your home, you can control the variables to a certain extent. When you're outside, you're at the expense of whatever environment you're in. And oftentimes now we're being bombarded more and more at higher and higher frequencies. So it's important to be able to have a choice in that. And that's why I love the products you guys make, because we can actually take our shielding with us and still feel good when we go outside. I have a lot of EHS clients who they don't feel good even traveling somewhere, because it's like you're just bombarded so much by frequency. Take it back to that point of EHS and EMF interacting with mold. Like if we have mold in our systems and then we're being bombarded by high frequency, I know it's made me feel terrible. And like I know for a lot of my clients it's the same thing, right? Like they might have CRS or MCAS or these different things, and then they're getting bombarded with frequency, which really amps that up.
If someone feels overwhelmed by all of this information, what is your advice to them?
Take a breath. It's gonna be okay. Just breathe. Woosah. It's tricky because it can be an onslaught of information. I know like when I was first getting into it, it's super overwhelming, you know, which is why I'm so grateful to have had like Building Biology, a lot of my mentors kind of guiding me through that, and I'm still learning. It's like, that's what I tell people is, we'll never know enough, you know, and if you become certain of things, kind of become your own worst enemy, right? Because you're like, then you're cutting out the understanding of anything that you don't know, which is so many things about even EMF that we don't know yet, right? So I would say just take a breath. I like to give them some resources. They feel overwhelmed because it's like, here's all the things we can do for your home, right? Here's the kind of good, better, best solution. Here's the cost of everything potentially. But like, we don't have to start with the highest end thing. Like if you make one change, that's like a small change, put your phone on airplane mode at night, you're already gonna feel a lot better. That's already doing you a big service. Like simple things, you don't have to go and hardwire your whole home. It will be great, but that's the best solution, you know? It's like we can start with the lower end stuff and it'll be okay. You know, that'll still help a lot. Encourage people that any small change they make will make a world of difference for them.
Yeah, that 100% aligns with DefenderShield's principles, and you know, better is better. We're never going to completely eliminate these things from our environments, especially nowadays, unless you go and live in one of the EMF-free zones, the very few that exist in the world.
Yeah.
And so we like to empower people, and I can tell that you do the same thing, and educate so we can have people feel more in control of their environments and their homes. So as someone that suffers from EHS, what are steps you personally took to improve your home situation?
So simply putting the phone on airplane mode when you're not using it. I'm pretty extreme in my house. Like we have no Wi-Fi, everything is hardwired. I even hardwire my phone. Disconnecting a bit, it's really important to lower that internal electrosmog. Phone, the Wi-Fi, devices that you connect to, even TVs that are connected to Wi-Fi are outputting so much frequency, it's insane. Like I've measured a few of them. You can even shield them and still use them, so that just tells me how much frequency they're actually using and don't need, right? So you can dumb things down a little bit by slightly shielding it, but it still works. You can turn it off at nighttime while your cells are trying to rest and recover. For me, it was I had to go to the extent of really getting all of that frequency out. It was at the point where it's like I would touch my phone and it went from, you know, numbness to burning. It's like we're at the point now where your myelin sheath is so deteriorated that it's starting to affect your nerve. And you see that a lot with clients too, primarily in offices. Since everyone started working from home a lot more, we started seeing a lot more issues. Obviously we're getting called into the home, but it's like, hey, I sit in my office and I don't really feel good. So a lot of what we do too is actually putting conductive tubing around cords and then grounding that cord, because when you're sitting in your office, you're just being bombarded not just by radio frequency, magnetic often, dirty electricity and then electric fields. I know myself, like a lot of people, I just couldn't focus at my desk, and that's where I had to come in and shield things, and then even wear things, DefenderShield products. Like when I'm in the home, sometimes even I can feel that frequency, and that's where I'm like, I'll just throw on a DefenderShield hat and my sweater, and that's the best I can do. So it's making those small changes, and for me that's what helped a lot, right? And also like knowing what's outside of my house that could be coming in, knowing what's in the environment. I mean, I took it to the extreme where I moved out to like the woods where I was away from everything. There's a lot of things where it's like you can avoid and do the most you can, but at the end of the day, like you can really just shield your home environment and then shield yourself when you're outside. And that's kind of where I took it to at this point. Like we were talking about on a flight, wearing shielding clothing. That's kind of just your informed choice, opting out of the scanner at the airport. A lot of these things where we just do them because we're accustomed to it and we're not thinking about the accumulative effects of it.
As a parent, how does that change some decisions you're going to be making in your family, your home, and for your children?
I try to teach them from a very young age. I think there's a big issue that we're going to have here pretty soon with just the attention that parents are giving to their kids. And I'm guilty of it. I think a lot of parents are guilty of it. Looking at our phones. It's like this massive thing that I don't think we really understand the nervous system damage that it's causing. We're training them. Everything we do, they're observing and they're repeating. We're their keepers and they're heroes. So to them, it's like they mimic everything we do by nature, right? So with the cell phone aspect, it's like just training them that like, this is not my lifeline. This is not like something I depend on. Put it away when you're with your kids. Giving them the understanding that we use technology as we need it. Technology doesn't control us, right? Like we don't need technology to survive. It's so painful to like go to a restaurant and see kids just sitting on an iPad or family just all on their devices. That's what we've become, and that's, to me, it's very sad. It's about having that connection and community, getting those devices away from family time. Watching a movie together is great, using blue light glasses from DefenderShield, which my kids use. Yeah, I got a blue pair and a pink pair.
Well, I love that perspective. I think it's very important that we teach our kids the basics of safe technology use.
Yes.
Because they can't escape it and we can't escape it, but we can teach them the basics of how to use it safely and setting limits and not having it be a focal point of their lives and like a daily necessity, because it's truly not, especially for children. Is there any last thing that you would like for families to know?
I think a lot of this not only has to do with toxins, but it has to do with the overall effect on our nervous system, which I think is the aspect that also gets missed and overlooked a lot of times. If you can't fix like your brain in the way that you're thinking, I know that I was there for a long time, right? Where it's like everything's out to get me. Everything's the enemy, I'm the victim. Getting out of that mindset and empowering yourself. I like that word empower, because ultimately, if we can't feel that we're empowered to make these choices or to be in charge of our environment and not let it be in charge of us, then we're gonna always feel that victimhood, and our bodies are at that point always gonna feel like we can't heal. I would leave clients with that, like, let's focus on the physical attributes, the physical aspects, the actual environment, but let's also focus on the mindset.
Well, Jonathan, I really appreciate you talking to me today, and I hope that everyone listening has learned some things. I know I certainly have. And Jonathan is with JF Healthy Homes. If anyone wants to have a home assessment done from a very knowledgeable building biologist.
Thanks for having me.